Searching the Cinahl database with keywords using the basic search interface. This is video 3 of the Search module Basic. The following slides will advance on their own, but feel free to pause or rewind as many times as you need. In the Search module video 1, we learned how to plan our search using the Search Strategy worksheet. If you haven't watched that video yet, you may like to go back and watch it now. In Search module video 2, we learned the basics of searching the Medline database using the PubMed interface. In that video, we learned the following skills: searching using keywords, using Boolean operators such as and, or, and not, nesting to group similar terms, truncation to search for words with multiple endings, and using quotes to search for phrases. In this video, we're going to focus on how to use those skills to search the Cinahl database using the basic search interface. In the intermediate search module, we'll learn how to use the advanced search feature in Cinahl. We are now at step 2 of the 7-step evidence-based practice process, searching the evidence. We'll be working from the same practice scenario we used in the Ask module. You can pause this video now to take your time to read the scenario, or you can open the PDF version, which is available on the module under Readings and Resources. We're going to use search questions that are based on the clinical practice scenario we just saw. We formulated this therapy question based on our practice scenario and already identified our key concepts in the Ask module in video 2. We're going to use it as our example now. For this search in Cinahl, we're going to use the keywords that we entered into the search strategy worksheet in video 1. To refresh your memory, here is the completed worksheet. When you first log into Cinahl, you will find yourself on the advanced search page. For the purposes of this video, we're going to use the basic search interface, so we're going to come right here and switch to basic search. And here's what we see on the basic search interface. The first thing you'll probably want to do is type in some keywords as though you're searching Google, and you would probably type in words based on what we had planned in our worksheet. So recurrent urinary tract infection, probiotics, and we have to spell it correctly because unlike Google, this database will not correct our spelling for us. And finally, treatment. So recurrent urinary tract infection, probiotics treatment, and search. And when you do that, you'll see that actually there were no results. And you can see right here, 0. But the database did some fancy thing and tried to find you stuff that it thought you wanted. And it did find some useful things, but it's a whole lot of stuff that it's too hard to look through all of it. So we probably want to go back and improve our search. And we also don't like this 0. We want to be the one that's in the driver's seat and making sure that what we're finding is what we're looking for and not some hidden algorithm that the database is using. So let's go back to the basic search page and try again. And when we come here, we'll notice here that we're in the Boolean phrase search mode. And that's probably why what we typed in didn't really work properly. So really what we want to do is switch to find all my search terms. And that's telling the database that you want all of the things that you typed in. So we can try that again and see what happens. And you can always type, select stuff there as long as it map. Oh, no, that's not good. So basically what happened is that by selecting what was in that drop-down, I actually told the database to search that thing. So just be careful about doing that because we did have some other words that we wanted to type in. So let's keep control of what we're doing here and not let the database decide what we want. Make sure we spelled it correctly. Switch it again to find all my search terms and click search. So now we did find some results, 22 to be exact. So that's a lot more precise. And we need to look down and see what we found though. We don't want to just go by numbers. We want to see what the relevance of what we found is because that's going to help us improve our search. And as mentioned in video 1, when we were planning our search, this is an iterative process. So your plan that you start with may not be what you end up with. And this is how you learn about whether your search is working or no. So it does look like some of these are relevant. However, we do want to make sure that we're finding everything that's relevant. And it looks to me like we could probably find more than just 22. Before we try a different method to improve our search, I just want to show you a few of the options you have on this page. One thing is that you may want to see the abstracts in order to really know whether what you found is relevant. So you can use the page options here to change it to a detailed view. And that way you're going to be able to see all of the abstracts for the articles that came up. And you can also see slightly bolded, these are the words in the abstract and in the title that are the reason why these articles are here. So sometimes you're going to wonder why certain articles that pop up in your search results are more or less relevant. This is a good way to see why they're there. The other thing to note is whether the results are listed by date. So right now they're date, the newest ones are at the top, or by relevance. So you can switch from newest to relevance, and it will change the order and bring the ones to the top that the database thinks are more relevant based on the terms that you entered. So that's something that you can play around with and see. When there's only 22 results, this is not really helpful because you can easily look through them. But when you have a whole lot more to look through, it might be helpful to bring the relevant ones to the top. The most important thing, however, is to always look through your results and make sure that they are indeed relevant. So now we're going to go back and try a different option. So again, we're going to go back to basic search. And we're going to try find any of my search terms. So once again, recurrent urinary tract infection, probiotics treatment. And we want to make sure it's spelled correctly, and it is. So let's see what happens then. So here we got over 1 million results. What's going on? Well, basically what's happening here is that we asked the database to find any article that had any of the words. And so that brings a whole lot of articles. Some of them might only have the word recurrent. Some of them might only have the word treatment. So that's definitely not the kind of search that we want to do. Let's go back to the search page and try a different method. This time we're going to stick with the default, which is the Boolean phrase searching. And this is the one that gives you the most control over what you're finding. And it makes use of the skills that you learned in the previous videos. So let's type in our search phrase, but now we're going to use the Boolean operator and to let the database know that we want it to find all of these terms. And let's click search. There we go. So now we've got 23 results. It's a little bit more than the 22. This is really doing a very similar thing. Find all my search terms is a slightly less precise way of telling the database that you want all of the words that you've typed in. But now that we know that we can use Boolean searching, we can actually do an even better job of doing that by using something called nesting, which we learned in the previous video when we were learning how to search PubMed. And what that means is that we can come back up here and edit this to put in the different words that we had, the different synonyms that we had identified in our search plan. So we're basically making these little groupings for each of our concepts. Now probiotics is just one thing, but for treatment, we can add those other terms. And really we should, it's good to capitalize the Boolean because some databases tend to recognize them better that way. And also it's just easier to see where you've put them. And we're going to press search again. So what we've done now is we've expanded a little bit what we had here, and we found a few more articles that we hadn't found before. So we can look down at our results, but it can sometimes be difficult to see what's different between what you found and what you didn't find before, right? So that's where, and here we can click on that to clear it. This is basically the only time that we recommend using the Boolean operator not, is because you can actually ask the database to show you what it found in S7. So S7 is the name of this search. This is 31, right? What did we find there, but not in S6? So what did we find here, but not here? So what's new? And if you click on search, it shows you what are the 8 new articles that we found. And you can see there are actually some really good articles here, although some of them do talk about prevention. But these are useful articles that you might actually want to look at. So that did help expand the search. The other thing that you can do, and by the way, you can always copy and paste what you have here and put it back in the search so you don't have to keep typing things over and over again. We can also use truncation. because we had to type in a lot of things here. But actually, if we put treat or therup, that will bring us those other variations. And we can also put a star there because that's going to bring probiotic in case somebody used the singular. It's the same here. We would want to use the truncation there. And here again, we can put the truncation. That helps simplify our search a little bit. So once you start knowing these techniques, it helps you. And you notice that we found a few more here. So that added, because we now have the plural of certain words. Another thing that we can do to be a little bit more precise is we can tell the database that we're searching for a specific phrase here. So you would put in the quotation marks, and that way it's not looking for those words separately. It knows that that's the phrase. So that brought us down a little bit, just in case there were articles there before that had the words urinary tract in one place and infection in a different place. We still want to go down, scroll down and look at what we found and make sure that it's relevant. And it does look pretty good. The idea is that you can play around with different options until you're satisfied that you found some relevant results. Now, let's say when we scroll down there were, a few good things, but we wanted to see if we can find a few more things. One thing that you could do is actually come back here and take away treatment or therapy, because you may have noticed when we were looking at the results, we're getting a lot of them mention prevention, and those might still be helpful and useful, because preventing recurrences could be a way of suggesting treating recurrences. In any case, those two things are related. So it might be helpful to open up our search, expand it a little bit, and not include that treatment concept. So as you can see, we're playing around here. It's not a straightforward thing, a search. You don't make a plan and then just stick to it. It may not always be the best plan. It's a great starting point. And then the idea is to see what you can do to improve your results and get closer to what it is that you're looking for. And again, if you want to see, we found 2 extra ones. If you want to know what 2 extra ones they were, once again, it would be S11 now, not S10. And then you can see the difference. What are those 2 extra ones that you found? Now that we have some search results that we're happy with, let's go down and look at some of the limits we can apply to those search results. If you scroll down, you'll see on the left-hand side you have some options here. So some of the ones that you may want to try are narrowing your results to a specific time frame, limiting to English language only if you really only understand English. You can limit to peer-reviewed articles, and that would be similar to limiting to academic journals. I would not recommend using the abstract available limit, because you may still want to read the full article to see if it's relevant. You definitely want to see what's there. This will reduce your results to only those ones that have an abstract, and that won't necessarily get rid of ones that are irrelevant. So you may lose some important articles. The important thing when you're using these limits is to make sure once you have a lot of search results And by the way, if you ever don't see your search history, you can always click on search history up here and it'll show you all of this. You want to make sure that you're viewing the results that you want to limit. So right now we're viewing those 2 results, so that's not very helpful. What will be here will always be by default the last thing that you searched. So let's view these 39 results. And you'll see the number here changes. And then we can apply these limits. So we can say out of these 39, I really want only those ones that are peer reviewed. So if you click on that, it's going to get rid of the ones that are not in peer reviewed journals. And now we've got 36 results. So 3 of those were maybe in trade journals. And you definitely want peer reviewed articles. So that's a great way to get rid of the ones that are not peer reviewed. With 39 articles, you probably don't want to use the other limits, but let's say you wanted to use these bigger limits, results. Let's say, the search that you did, even using all those techniques I showed you, like Boolean and truncation and nesting and phrase searching, you still have too many results to look through. Then let's say, you have a couple of thousand, you can still limit to peer reviewed, but then you might want to, limit to more recent. So now we're down a little bit, but not by too much. But now we don't want to go back all the way to 1959. Let's say we want to go back 10 years or 12 years or whatever. That's going to be a bit more of a manageable search result. And then we could say, well, I only want English. So you can combine all those results to try and narrow it down a little bit. And then again, you can make sure it's sorted by relevance, and you may not have to look through all 1,300. You might want to look through the first 100 and just see what's there that's helpful. Something you might like to do as you go along is delete the searches that were less successful, just to keep your search results a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to get rid of the ones where we had very big results. And that includes these last 3 where we limited those bigger searches, because it's getting a little unwieldy here. So we're going to select those ones we want to delete, and we're going to click here, delete searches. So now we only have certain ones, and you can decide which ones were the most relevant and reduce it to those in your search history. If you wanted to print your search history, let's say you want to share it with me and get some feedback and advice, you can click on Print Search History, and you'll get this pop up, and you can save this. You can save it as a PDF and share it. The other thing that you can do, if one of these searches is really helpful for you, is you can select it and click on Save Searches and Alerts. And you could set it up. You can either save it to a folder, or you can set it up as an alert, so it will bring you new results as they come in that match your search. But first, you have to create an account for yourself. If you don't already have an account, you would click on Sign Up, or if you want, you can continue with Google and follow the steps. I do have an account, so I'm going to type in my username and my password. And here you can create a name of the search. So call it probiotics for recurrent UTI. And I can save it. I'm going to save it as temporary, but I can save it as permanent. Or you can set up an alert. And that means that anytime something new comes up, it'll send you an email. And you can decide how often you want it. Once a day seems a bit much, but if you're interested, I would usually say biweekly or once a month. And you can also say you don't want older articles. Sometimes older articles do get added to the database because they might have added a new journal that they didn't have before. And so all the back issues get added. And so you would end up with older articles. And you could say for how long you want that. And decide what kind of email you want, what title, what the subject you want, and all that stuff. And this is the search. That's the one you selected. This is the search that's going to either be saved or set up as an alert. And I'm going to cancel because I don't actually want to save it. But where you would find it is up here in your folder later. So next time you come to Cinahl, you would sign in and then you can go to your folder. And over here on the left-hand side, you're going to see all your saved searches. Now I have 100 searches saved and I don't have any alerts set up. So that's how come I have 100 here and only 0 here. But you'll probably start with 1 or 2 here and a couple there. And if you want to go back, you can always click on the back button. That's usually better than clicking the browser buttons back and forth in this database. The other thing you can do to share a search is make sure that the correct one is being displayed. So this is not the one that we want. We'll go back to that 36, view results. You can share from here. So if you click on that, you can actually use this link and email it to someone, and they can then open following this link will open the database and rerun the search. That's only going to help if the person has access to the McGill Cinahl. So I wouldn't use that to share with anybody outside. And again, you can set up an email alert from here. So those are some of the options you have when using this database. If you have any trouble while you're here, you can send a message to the librarian on call. Just be aware, though, that they may be a librarian that doesn't know much about Cinahl, so it might be better, unless it's a technical problem, like something has gone wrong with the database, to just contact me and I will be able to help you with whatever search you're doing. The other thing you can do here is edit your search. So you'll notice here, there's an edit button. So let's say you accidentally had a spelling mistake and you wanted to fix it. Let's say you had forgotten to type the Y there. You can edit it. You can fix it there. Or let's say you want to take away the phrase. You can do that as well. And if you change your mind, you can cancel it. From here, you have some more options as well. So this is something that's helpful here, the clinical queries. You may remember in the Ask module, we talked about different types of questions and what type of evidence is best to answer those. So this is a way that you can limit your results to that best evidence. So this is a therapy question. So you could say, I want the types of research studies that are best to answer therapy questions. You can also come down and limit, let's see, sometimes you're asking a qualitative question. So this is a way to limit to the best evidence to find qualitative studies. And you can also use review. That's a good way to limit to things like systematic reviews and scoping reviews. Those are on the evidence pyramid. They're a higher level of evidence. So that's another way you can do that. I usually start with best balance and see where that gets me. So let's see what happens when I do that. Out of the 39, how many have we got left? So 22. And if we look down, we can see now none of them mention that they are a systematic review. They do say they are literature review. That means that's a narrative review. That is not a higher level of evidence. That would fall under expert opinion. So you want to make sure that they actually say systematic review or scoping review. And none of these actually do except for this one here. So this is a very high level of evidence. And out of all the ones that you found here, this would probably be the best and the best evidence to answer your question. And it's also talking about treatment and prevention. It really answers your question very, very specifically. Now, of course, with 39 articles, you could have just scrolled down and looked for that systematic review. But again, this is an option you have if, let's say, you had 150 articles or 2,000 articles. That would be a really good way to limit your results to the most relevant and higher level results. Now, I'm seeing that that's really the only systematic review that's there. I think that if I had used not the best balance, if we go back and edit that and we change it to high specificity, I think that might bring us fewer of those things that were not really what we're looking for. So let's see, that only brings us 2 results. No, that didn't really, oh, that's because it's not displaying the new results. So you need to actually say view results. And here we go, the systematic review is right at the top. This one doesn't say systematic review in the title, but it is considered a systematic review. So these are the 2 that you really would want to focus on. Now this one does talk about cranberry in the title, but you'll notice that the word probiotics is in the abstract. But this is one of those cases where they use the word, but that's not what the article is about. So keep that in mind. That's why it's important to review results, look at the abstracts and see if they truly are relevant. So really this one is your best bet. Congratulations! Now you know how to search the Cinahl database from the basic interface using keywords and some handy skills such as Boolean and truncation and nesting and limits. In the Search Module Intermediate, you'll learn how to plan and complete a search using more advanced techniques such as subject headings in Medline Ovid and Cinahl. Now that you know how, remember to plan your search, save your search, and share your search before meeting with the librarian.